We live in a world overflowing with content on the art of becoming you, or your best you, rather. 5 things you need to do to be financially successful, 10 foods to avoid to fix your gut, your mind, your marriage even, 20 red flags to run from to find your ideal partner. And I could stand here and give you a series of neat, quotable sentences to clog up that notes app and to scratch that short-term gratification itch of motivating you in the moment before you quickly move on. Like, respond, don't react. Worrying is worshipping the problem. We want status, not money, etc., etc., etc. But to tell you guys the truth, recently, my brain has just been feeling bloated with content. So much so that I'm struggling to have independent thoughts. And I use the word bloated deliberately because really these self-improvement sound bites have a lot in common with chocolate fingers. They're ultra-processed, designed for quick consumption and mass sharing, and they make you feel great as you binge, but leave you feeling way worse after. So, instead what I want to do is to take you backstage a bit and expose how this content is made. The art of creating content on the art of becoming you, if you will. To show how it shapes your perception of self and how becoming you is really not something you can fast track. My aim is that by the end of my talks, you're going to leave with a longer-lasting feeling that you have more agency, more mental real estate, and you'll realize that becoming you is just what happens in the background when you find a good balance between being and doing. So, let's get into it. Right. Now, there is a lot that these people online who seem to have it all figured out have that you don't have. But the 2 most important are hindsight and an editor. And they play a remarkably similar role. They package the past to make it presentable. And I've come to tell you this from the industry. So I'm the creative and commercial co-founder of my company. So my day-to-day life is all marketing, sales, distribution, social media. I have to think of slogans that sum up my company's mission, to constantly make our problems seem part of the plot, to pitch and persuade people of my product and of a future that we haven't even created yet, to expose myself to pull closer to the consumer, and to film a day in the life that's never really a day in the life because I have to interrupt my day to film a day in the life. I can also tell you that whenever I talk about my building journey on podcasts or in interviews, there's always these moments that I refer to as like the crucial blocks. But honestly, during them, I had no idea what was going on. And it's only now that I look back at this messy mix of experiences and I've realized, I was always going out of my way to solve problems with projects. I guess I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was 5. And then you further edit it by putting the most controversial sentence first. I started my first business at 5 years old. You add quick cuts, captions, and a controversial and kind of loosely relevant line in the description, like, could this be called child labor? Hindsight plus crafted editing. Nothing more. But suddenly, you're scrolling and you're like, wait, what? I didn't want to build a business at 5. Does that mean I'm not going to be an entrepreneur? Or your equivalent for your dream? But let's be real. You already felt a bit down on yourself. That is the reason you opened Instagram and TikTok in the first place. You felt sad, bored, hungry. Or maybe there was an emotion you didn't want to address yet, so you thought you'd reach for your phone to fill the gap by scrolling through other people's stories. You simply do not open social media when you're feeling happy, focused, or fulfilled. So it's really important that you don't compare your sad day to someone else's story. For editing nerds, it's like comparing raw footage shot in log with the color-graded final cuts. And it's even more important that you remember the context that this content is meeting you at. Because it's not just shaping your perception of other people, it's shaping how you see yourself. And this introspection leads me on to my next point. When you're consuming content by creators or by companies, interrogate your introspection. Why am I suddenly thinking about me? Why do I suddenly feel bad about where I am right now, or that I need something that I don't have? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because content is designed to make you think about yourself. The biggest misconception in marketing is that it's about making the consumer feel something about the company or the creator. It's not. It's about how the company or creator makes the consumer feel about themselves. Let me give you an example. Nike sells trainers with ads that inspire you to run, and you're like, maybe I have the right gear, then I'll actually stick to my gym routine. You watch that day in the life because you're damn curious about how it compares to your day and whether you should change anything. There's this term in the creator world called unselfish blogging. And it refers to including the correct amount of detail, whereby it's personal and authentic, but not too much that it becomes boring and unrelatable. The peak is where you find the balance between enabling your audience to compare and to relate to your context through shared emotions, not shared situations. I'll give you an example. Let's say a fashion blogger could open their vlog by saying, I've always found it really anxiety-inducing choosing my outfits every day, which is why it's incredible that I have a stylist to do it for me now. So you hook people in with a shared emotion, and then you satisfy their curiosity about a very different situation. And creators aren't the only people that do this. You'll find this in music as well. Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, Charlie XCX, they're all masters at combining hyper-detail with universal emotions. So respect the craft, seek solace in the shared emotion, but don't over-compare yourself to the situation. Don't make it too much about you. Now, this really isn't meant to be a depressing statement about the selfish core of human nature. Because really, we evolved to be curious about and compare ourselves to our peers. It was important that we conquered new pastures, that we communicated about who was on heat in the tribe to progress our race and to size ourselves up against other tribes. But we did not evolve to be curious about or to compare ourselves to every human being on the planet. Esther Perel has this quote about romantic relationships that I love. She says, "We now turn to one person to provide what an entire village once did." And I think the inverse is also true. We now turn to an entire village or multiple villages to provide what one person once did. You should not be storing the stories of multiple villages all at once. Just surround yourself with people whose life choices you respect. In fact, the best advice that I've ever received is, George, do not listen to too much advice. Just take it from within your tribe. That is, people that know you best, know the life that you'd like to lead best because they've lived it themselves. Beyond that, it's probably net negative to know too much. Now, despite this multitude of stories about different people becoming very different things, in English, we only have one word for it, to become. One of my favorite things about Spanish is that there's 6 verbs of becoming. For example, when the prince becomes a frog, that's one word. When you become embarrassed, that's another verb. Or when you become a banker, that's another still. And it broadly depends on the pace of change, the permanence of change, the control you had over the change, and whether the change was positive or negative. I think Spanish does a way better job here of conveying how all these changes to self require very different processes. In English, we have one word. And then social media further collapses these timelines even more. For example, it makes us feel that we can become motivated to be healthy as fast as we can become healthy as fast as we can become motivated to be healthy. The latter is a spontaneous reaction, whereas the former is a prolonged process of repeating activities to rewire your habits. Or we're obsessed with transitional content, like I was overweight, but now I'm a bodybuilder, or no makeup to full face tank. But do you know the hours that went into those changes and the years before that? Viral videos and reality TV have tricked us into thinking that we can hack the system. But in reality, people that rise very fast often fall just as quickly. Because you need to build up a big body of work, worries, and mistakes to become the person that knows how to sustain success in relationships. All of the most successful people that I've ever met have told me, George, it takes 10 years to build an overnight success that will then last a decade. So, to wrap this up, and the reason that I'm building an in-real-life social app is because I don't think you'll really find the real you by just consuming loads of content online. You will find Gym Bro, Tech Bro, Fashion Girl 45, or some equivalent edit selling you shortcuts to success and selfhood, with actually often quite hilarious, novel, or instant solutions to these struggles that have troubled human beings for centuries. I mean, you literally need only open Shakespeare, Hamlet. To be or not to be is a guy in his 20s overwhelmed with the weight of choice within quite a problematic family dynamic in his case. I studied literature in 3 languages at university, and I can tell you that all stories ever written across multiple languages all boil down to this: the journey of self, the art of becoming you. And then there is one final secret that I'd like to leave you with. And this talk is actually living evidence of it. I wrote this talk because it's what I needed to hear right now. Often, when people give you advice about how to become you, it's because it's things they need to tell themselves, and they tell you in order to internalize it. So, keep your ambitions massive, but your vision focused, because you won't move forward very fast if you're constantly looking left to right and behind. And the joy of life can only be found in not having a shortcut and having to find out the answers for yourself. Thank you for listening.